Today I'm going to be sharing with you an extremely interesting concept, right? I'm going to show you exactly how these superstores are ethically brainwashing you to buy, right? Harrods, Selfridges, Macy's, the casinos, all of these mega stores have set themselves up in such a way where it's harder for you to not buy from them than to buy from them when you go into their stores. And what's really interesting is over the last few months, I've really studied these concepts and how they're doing what they're doing. And I've conceptualized it in a way to show you how we can apply these principles to online businesses, right? Specifically for coaches, how they can do this. Now, if I told you that you could set up your business in such a way where when somebody looks at what you're doing, you have a higher percentage of them buying or booking a call with you than them not buying, you'd probably bite my hand off trying to learn what that process is. And this is exactly what I'm going to show you today. Now, quick introduction, because obviously you don't know me. My name is Alexandros, for short you can call me Alexi. Long story short, I take the guesswork out of sales and marketing for coaches so that they can pretty much focus on what they want to be doing, which is obviously coaching, right? And at the time of recording this, I've generated coaches multi-six figures in revenue using the processes that I'm going to show you today. So you can trust that what I'm sharing here does have some knowledge and some experience behind it. But let's get into this and start looking at how these stores are ethically brainwashing us to buy from them. Now, the way that this starts is actually everything to do with how they are directing and converting their traffic. Now, what most people don't realize is that these stores have traffic sources. Now, unlike us, where an online business, our traffic is somebody, for example, clicking on our Instagram or clicking on our YouTube or clicking on our website. These stores, their traffic is obviously physical footfall, right? It's people physically walking through their stores. But the reason that these stores do so well, and the reason that these stores are able to ethically brainwash us to buy and set themselves up in a way where it's more than likely that when we walk into their stores, we're either going to buy something now, or if we don't now, down the line, is all to do with how they are directing and converting their traffic. So let's quickly take a look at how this works. So there's two approaches of how you can divert and convert traffic in any sort of business, online, physical, whatever that is. Now, the first approach is a funnel style of approach, okay? Now, a funnel style of approach, just look at the design of a funnel, how it's actually created. A funnel is designed to lose leads. A funnel is designed to send people through a process, through a flow, and to try and capture a percentage of them out of the back. Now, what that means for you is that a percentage of the leads that you generate are going to disappear. Okay, now here's what the superstores understood that a lot of online businesses don't understand or don't actively apply, which is losing them revenue essentially, is that 90% of people, 80 to 90%, let's say, aren't going to be ready to buy here and now. So what that means for you is that if you're using a funnel or a funnel style of approach, or even if the superstores are doing it, 80 to 90% of the traffic that is coming through is never going to convert, and you're not going to be able to convert it down the line because you're designing yourself to lose, right? So you're pretty much leaving money on the table. And the secret of these superstores, another big part of how they're brainwashing us, is that they're not just sending us in the store, funneling us a few buy and the rest disappear. They're nurturing us in a way which, if you don't buy right at this point in time, you will see something that you like or that you want to buy, or will give you the absolute best chance of buying down the line, okay? So an example of how this applies to these practical terms to see the difference between different types of stores is like, you could have a food truck or like Pret a Manger, which is if there's any US people, I don't know if they have Pret a Manger in the US, but it's a UK based store where they do like fresh produce food for you to go on the go, right? It's mainly for workers. Now, the way that these stores are set up, it is designed for quick footfall. It's designed for in and out. Right, it's designed for you to buy something and to leave. And because of that, if somebody comes in and they don't buy straight away, more than likely they're not going to come back. Okay, that's just how they're set up, and that's how these stores are optimized. Now, unfortunately, most coaches have set their business up in this way, designing to lose a lot of the leads that they generate. But most coaches are trying to sell high ticket. Now, when you're trying to sell high ticket, like I said, 80 to 90% of people will not buy at this point in time. They will buy down the line. So if you're setting yourself up in a way where you're designing to lose leads, you are leaving money on the table, right? You are leaving money on the table. You are losing clients because you're optimizing in a way which is designing you to lose. So what we need to do is not replicate these approaches of these stores that are selling low ticket items that want quick footfall in and out and no longevity in their businesses. And we actually need to use and replicate what the superstores are doing. Now, the best example I could show you of this is an actual physical screenshot of the Harrods floor plan. Okay, this is a physical screenshot of the floor plan. Now, again, some of you may not have been to central London or to Knightsbridge to go to Harrods, but I would strongly recommend that you go, because when you go into Harrods, when I tell you it is literally physically a maze to get out of, I've never seen anything like it. Like, I remember one time going into the men's section, the clothing bit, just curious to see what there was, see if there was anything that caught my eye. I planned to go in there for 2 minutes. Next thing I know, I'm in there for 30 minutes. I've seen about 3 different items that I like. And even though I didn't purchase in that exact moment, I went back not long after and bought the thing that I'd seen. And this is exactly what we need to start replicating. Now, stores like Harrods, stores like Selfridges or Macy's or even the casinos, they're trying to maximize the amount that they're getting out of their customer. Unlike the smaller stores that I just showed you, which are just quick, in and out, low purchases, these types of stores are really trying to get you to spend. Okay, and what we need to replicate in the way that they do things is they use a beaker style of approach. Now, a funnel versus a beaker is something I'll break down in a moment, but like I said, what starts to happen is that when you go into these stores, you are in their ecosystem, you're in their world. It's harder for you to leave than to stay in the most ethical way possible. And when I say they're brainwashing you, what I mean by that is, like for me, for example, I did laps of that store trying to find an exit. But by the time I'd done those laps, I just kept stopping because I saw something I'd liked. I saw another item I liked. I saw a bag. I saw a top. And I'm like, hang on a second, now I've got a shopping list of things I want, and I came in here with no intention of buying anything, and then a week later I went back and bought. And this is how they brainwash you. They set themselves up and they build themselves an ecosystem in such a way where they implant themselves in your mind, which means that you are going to buy. Whether you realize it or not, you will eventually buy from these stores, whether it's now or whether it's down the line. And what I've been studying and what I've been looking to replicate and what I have replicated for all of my clients is how we can use that online and how we can apply these processes to online businesses, specifically for coaches, to essentially get the most out of each and every person that comes into our stores, so to speak, and to make sure that we are making the most possible revenue from the activities and the efforts that we're putting into online advertising and generating traffic and things like that, right? So this is now what I'm going to show you. So it all starts with the funnel versus beaker approach. So here's the first thing to understand, right? A lot of people challenge me on this, which I'm more than open to be challenged on. And they say, well, a funnel is the only way to get clients. How else do you get clients, right? It's a funnel. Now, the first thing I want to say about a funnel is a concept. And if you Google the definition of a concept, it's an idea and it's an invention to describe something. Okay? Now, a funnel is something that has been made popular online because it's become this norm, right? And this is what everyone thinks is right. Everyone thinks, right, I need to have funnels. I need to generate leads, send them down my funnel, lose 1% of them and convert a tiny percent. But this is actually wrong, right? And this is the approach that these types of stores take, right? They try and get volume through the door. They don't really care how many convert. They just want a few to convert, and they know a lot of them won't stick. But when you're trying to sell lower ticket stuff like this, which is quick, then it's fine. But when you're looking to sell things which are luxury, higher ticket, more intimate and more of like a dedicated service like coaching, we don't just want to disappear and lose our leads. We want to build an ecosystem and a process where people have the best chance of buying, like I said, whether it's now or down the line. Because like I say, most people, when it comes to higher ticket stuff, will not buy at this point in time. They will buy down the line. And this is where the beaker approach comes in. And a beaker, like I say, is just a new concept to lead generation, traffic, and getting clients. So instead of designing ourselves in a way to simply send people down our funnel and lose 1% of them, we're designing ourselves in a way to build a beaker, build an ecosystem, trap people inside our world, nurture them, constantly keep us front of mind so we have the absolute best chance of converting them. You can see the main difference with a beaker is the leads we generate don't disappear. They stay in our beaker, they stay in our world. And I developed this from the Harrods floor plan model, right? Like I said, when I went in the store, I came in with no intention to buy. I was just having a look. I left seeing 3 things that I liked, coming back later and buying, because they captured me in their world, in their beaker, in their ecosystem. They nurtured me. Now again, obviously with Harrods, they can't physically keep us in that store, but they can do the best that they can to implant the idea of purchasing or getting something that we like in our minds. And this is exactly what we're going to replicate with the beaker, right? Because most people, right, they use these funnels, and half the leads they generate disappear and nobody buys from them. A prime example of beakers, like just to give you some context of how I've seen this work in real time, is, for example, I worked with a career coach, and we set up her advertising strategy, that unique strategy I've developed, and I applied with her the beaker approach principles. And what started to happen was that instead of people just opting into the advert and just disappearing, they were opting in and they were staying there for months. And like after she'd booked in a call with people, even if they didn't sign up on the first time, I can remember 2 or 3 examples where people would see her content, see her ecosystem that we'd built for her, and they would come back 3, 4, 5, 6 months down the line and go, okay, I'm ready to go now, let's go ahead, we've already had the call, and it's pretty much done. Same thing for me. I had a call with somebody a year ago now, in March 2024, right? We're in May 2025 now. And a year and a bit later, this particular coach has just signed up to work with me because he's in my beaker, because he's in my ecosystem. And that isn't an accident. And this is what I'm going to show you how to replicate today. So you're probably thinking, okay, all right, how does this actually work? Well, let me show you. Okay, so most funnels apply these sort of principles. And most funnels will tell you to run these types of ads. So some sort of lead magnet, an ebook, a masterclass, a webinar, a PDF. Now, the problems with these types of things is that they bring people in that are just curious for freebies. They're just curious to see what you can do. They're just curious to see what the thing is, if it will give them some free advice, and you never get serious buyers, right? And the other issue with that is that the percent of people that go through these things, they're going through a funnel. Again, so people download your ebook, but they don't know who you are. They don't know your story. They don't know your expertise. They don't know your values. They just download the free thing. They just disappear. Okay, so if you try to email them, if you try to call them, they're like, who on earth is this person? Who is this coach? I can't even remember what it is that I downloaded. And so these types of ads, when you're running things like this, these are designed for quick inputs and outputs, right? They're not designed for longevity. Now, if you're looking to build like a long-term sustainable coaching business with a revenue stream and an advertising campaign which lasts, right? Not a campaign you have to keep changing, not leads that you have to constantly change, then you need to ditch these types of ads. And the types of ads you need to use are ads that apply beaker principles. Now, let me just explain to you very quickly how this works. And again, like I said, the way that I've developed this is just based off of these superstores and the way that they brainwash us to buy. Okay, like I said, if we're looking at this floor plan again, when I came into this store and I walked around and I did my laps of the store, I came in with no intention of buying. I was hooked in because I was curious to see what they had to offer. Okay, now when I was hooked in, like I said, I was trying to find an exit, but they made it hard for me to leave. And whilst I was trying to find an exit, essentially, I was seeing things that I liked and things that resonated with me, and then that led me to buying. Now, I was thinking to myself, how on earth can we replicate this online, right? Because we don't have an in-person store, we don't have a floor plan, we don't have a shop front. How can we do that? And then I thought, well, in a way, our Instagram could become like that sort of ecosystem, right? And this is what I've developed. So think of it this way, right? Your Instagram now becomes your floor plan. It becomes the way that you hook people in, and it also becomes the way that you keep people in and nurture them to buy, whether that's for now or down the line. Now, it's very simple how you do that. So the first step, okay, is, if I just get a pen here, is you need to drive people to this page, okay? You need to drive people every day to your Instagram page. Like I say, we don't have in-person businesses. We have online digital businesses. This is the best and closest we can get to a shop front or a floor plan of like Harrods, for example. This becomes our ecosystem. This becomes our world, because we can control what goes on here. We can control what people see of us, and we can represent ourselves in a very particular way that we want to be represented to get the clients that we want. So the first step is to run evolved ads, that I've called them. And again, these are the new types of ads. Forget the ebooks, forget the lead magnets, forget the webinars and the masterclasses. we are running adverts that drive people to our social media, right? And we're saying in the adverts very simply, look, if you are X person with X problem looking to get to this point in your life and you're experiencing 1, 2, 3 pains, come to my page, look at my content. If you find it useful, follow me. I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. Okay, now if you want the exact script, like I said, I've spent multi 5 figures on adverts on this exact advertising campaign. So if you want the script that I've developed to make that possible, just send me a DM on Instagram saying script and I'll send that over to you. But first step, like I say, is to replicate the Harrods and to get people to brainwash them to be able to buy from us in the most ethical way. We need to send them to this page. Okay? This is what you need to be doing. Forget all of this stuff. Now, once we're driving people to this page, the key here is that the way that you set up this page will determine your success. So, same with Harrods, right? If they just had one big open floor plan with no rooms separating, an easy exit, no products set up for you to look at to try on, you wouldn't stay and it wouldn't have the effect it had. So what we need to do is set up our page in a way that hooks people in and makes them want to stay in our ecosystem. Okay? So the first step, how we do that, is with this post, and you share your story, right? My story. It's very simple, right? Everything on this page that I've got is very intentional. So your story essentially is who you are and how you've ended up doing what you are now. Now, the secret to this post is linking it as much as you humanly can to your target avatar. So when you're sharing, what I recommend the flow is that you do is you share your before state, right? And you link that again to your target avatar. You share your transformation, what made you realize that you needed to switch, and that usually is linked to what you're selling now. You share your after state, which is, again, you should be linked to where your target avatar wants to be now. And then you share your mission for your business, okay? And what that does, the reason we do that is because people want to buy from people that have walked the path that they want to walk. So we're building that connection, we're building that rapport. That's your first step. Second step, share client results. Very self-explanatory, okay? People buy based on social proof. If people know that you have helped other people walk the same path, they're going to be 10 times more open to listen to what you have to say to them. So the next step is show transformation of your clients, whether that's testimonials, whether that's before and after case studies, anything to show new people that come into your shop front or your floor plan, so to speak, that you are the right person to help them. And then again here, this last post, just show something to show a little bit more of who you are, right? You really want to try and get across your values, your beliefs, who you are as a person. Here I show me doing a speech for coaches, and I'm showing my sort of commitment, my hard work, my dedication to get to this point in my journey, and I'm trying to show people my values and my passions for what I do. Okay, so this half of your page becomes like the floor plan, right? And this top half becomes like your shop front. So your shop front, like Harrods has the shop front, the things outside to hook you in, to get you to come in. And when you're in, this part of your page is designed to keep them into the floor plan, to make them look around, to make them want to work with you. Okay, so once you've done these 3 pin posts, the rest of your content, how you do it is extremely simple. So think of it this way, right? Your target client has a big overarching problem, and what makes up that problem are loads of little micro problems. Okay, so the overarching problem that I help coaches with is getting clients. What makes that up is they don't know how to create content, they don't know how to run ads, maybe they don't know how to define a niche, they don't know how to market themselves, they don't know how to sell. Okay, now what I do is all of my content speaks on these micro problems, and I do that by giving tips, tricks, insights, advice, guidance, ways of thinking. And by me doing that, what then happens is that when people come on my page, they can see I'm an expert at what I'm doing because I've got the results. They can see who I am from these 2 posts. And now all of my content is solving their problems and moving them one step closer to their goals in such a way where it's like, it is a no-brainer for me to stay and interact with this guy because he's helping me. This is useful. Let me see what he can do more. And what tends to happen is what I'll find is that people will come on my page and they'll scroll down to old posts and they'll leave comments and they'll ask for trainings and they'll reach out to me and things like that. And now they're in my beaker, right? As soon as somebody follows me, they're in my beaker, they're in my ecosystem. And essentially what that means for me now is that I have an opportunity to nurture someone, whether that's right now, booking them in for a call and giving them an opportunity to help them and apply the beaker principles for themselves, or nurturing them in my own beaker and getting them to buy down the line. Like I said, I've recently started working with a coach who I spoke with over a year ago. He was in my beaker for a year. But because I was constantly front of mind, constantly nurturing him, constantly posting valuable, useful content, eventually, like I say, he just turned around and went, right, I'm ready to go now. I've been watching your stuff. This is really useful. Let's go ahead. Okay. Now, the other stuff that you can add into your floor plan, so to speak, to hook people in, 40% of the time, you can share problems, micro problems. 30% of the time, you can share results. So additional to this post, you can share case studies, interviews, things like that. And 30%, you can share who you are. Okay, again, because when it comes to the online side of things, people want to buy into you. So like this recent post that I did here was a video of me in 2023 speaking about my struggles, and then it switched to where I am now to show people more of my journey and who I am. Now, if you build it out in this way, right? And in your shop front, in your bio, you show who you help and how you help and how. You show some social proof, you share some results, some more life, and promote some long form content. Essentially, what's going to happen is that you've created a floor plan exactly like Harrods, exactly the same way that they do. And what that means for you, whether you realize it or not, is that you are ethically brainwashing people to eventually buy from you. Because what you're doing there is you are positioning yourself as the go-to expert. You're positioning yourself as pretty much the one and only solution to their problems. And if you're constantly front of mind, constantly showing results, constantly building trust by showing you who you are, constantly solving their micro problems and showing that you are an expert, what will then start to happen is that it just becomes a no-brainer for people to buy from you, right? Exactly like when I was in Harrods, right? I did my laps, I came in with no intention, I did my laps, and eventually I'd seen things I'd liked, things resonated that I wanted, and I was like, okay, I might buy that. Exactly the same here, right? People will come in, they'll do their laps, they'll watch their content, your stuff will keep coming up, and eventually what will start to happen is they're just going to go, right, I've been watching this coach for enough time now, I trust them, I've seen their results, I trust them even more because I know who they are as a person, and I trust them even more because they're constantly solving my problems. I'm interested to see how they could help me. I'm curious to buy. And this is the beaker approach. Now, again, with most funnels, you'd run ads, you drive people to something, and most of them you never hear from again. You don't even know what they look. They don't even know what you look like. They don't even know if you can help them. They just want the freebie. These types of ads and this beaker approach is used based on these superstores principles. And trust me, when I've run ads like this, I've done all of this stuff. I've spent a lot of money on it. Nothing has been as cheap or as successful as this type of campaign. Okay, and this is exactly why I recommend that you do it as well. And so, if you're looking to replicate how the superstores are winning, how they're making all their money, how when you go in it feels like almost impossible for you not to buy, this is exactly what you need to be doing. Like I said, the proof's in the pudding. All the coaches I work with have had a complete shift where they'd go from chasing people, waiting for somebody to turn up, to people now coming to them, asking for help, asking for calls. They'll have people where they've had calls before and where usually that call would just disappear and they'd never hear from that person again. They are now turning up months later and going, okay, I'm ready to buy, I'm ready to go ahead. And so what we're doing is we're placing ourselves in the mind of the prospect, not just for now, but like I say, for months down the line. So we give ourselves the absolute ultimate best chance of converting these people. And a lot of coaches aren't front of mind. A lot of coaches aren't in the head of their ideal prospect. And because of that, you haven't created an ecosystem, you haven't created your floor plan, and you haven't created just for yourself the absolute best chance of getting people in and converting them. Okay, and this is exactly what the superstores do. Like I say, this is just the online version. We've just taken this concept, which is a physical thing, and just taken it online, and it works so well because it's a proven model. These stores don't make all of this money by accident. It's a proven model, and this is exactly what I've studied, and this is exactly what's come out of it. Okay, so I hope you guys found that useful. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot them over on Instagram. If you want to learn more about what I do, how I could help you, all the stuff's in the description, and it'll be the first pinned comment as well. So feel free to check that out. But I'm posting content every single Tuesday exactly like this, giving you tips, guidance, and advice. So if you found it useful, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next Tuesday in the next video.